On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Lee County, welcome. This presentation is on the history of the Lee County Board of County Commissioners single-member districts and the legislative steps required to place this issue on the ballot. In November 2026, registered voters in Lee County will decide by referendum how the Board of County Commissioners is structured. If approved by a majority vote, the Lee County Charter would be amended to require commissioners to be elected by single-member districts beginning with the 2028 election. Currently, members of the Board of County Commissioners are elected at large. Our speaker, Matt Caldwell, served in the Florida House of Representatives from 2010 to 2018. During his time in office, he served on and chaired several committees and sponsored legislation that was signed into law. In 2020, Matt Caldwell was elected Lee County Property Appraiser, an office he continues to hold today.
The process of bringing single-member districts to the ballot in Lee County has been a long and winding road over the last several decades. Early advocates pushed for a referendum back in the 80s that barely fell short of the majority needed. Following that, we in Lee County adopted our Lee County Charter in 1996, and that called for a charter review process every 4 years. And so they sat in 2000, 2004, 2008, at which point we moved to an 8-year cycle, and so then again in 2016 and 2024. And each of the first 4 of those meetings, single-member districts was a major component of the discussion. And in most of them, the push to bring that issue forward to the ballot for the voters to decide on the structure of their government here in Lee County fell short often only by a single vote. Unfortunately, those interests who were arrayed against the change were able to successfully prevent the issue from moving forward. As you moved into 2024, it became clear to those of us who were passionate about this issue, myself having served on the 2008 Charter Review cycle, that there was not going to be an opportunity for an honest discussion about the issue through the Charter Review, and began to discuss the question with our legislative delegation, the folks who represent us in Tallahassee. Many of them, most of them, were already familiar with the issue, having been longtime residents of Lee County. Most of them were favorably disposed towards the change and absolutely believed that the voters deserve to decide how their government is structured. Thankfully, they, working with one another in the House and the Senate, were able to pass a local bill that will bring this issue finally to the voters in 2026 and give us the opportunity to decide how our government is going to be structured. And that really is the key. When you consider how the county commission is structured today with 5 at-large seats, no Lee County voter has ever had their say on that particular question. At-large voting was imposed at the statewide level in the early 1900s. It is a legal and historical fact that at-large districts exist to disenfranchise some portion of the voters. James Madison himself identified that that was a defect of at-large voting in the Federalist Papers as they discussed how they would structure the U.S. House of Representatives. So it's long been understood that legislative bodies should be composed of people who represent the interest of their constituents, the constituents that live, reside within their respective districts, and then go to serve in their legislative body in a collaborative capacity to push forward the issues that matter most to their constituents within the context of the larger body. The biggest challenge then, as we look at where we live today in Lee County at a practical level, obviously in the early 1900s, Lee County had fewer than 10,000 residents. So the question of at-large versus single member was probably a little more esoteric than anything else. But today, as we head to 850,000 residents, this is a serious concern. Running for the county legislative body is now more difficult than running for the federal legislative body. A congressional seat represents roughly 760,000 residents. A countywide seat on the county commission represents 850,000 residents. So when you consider both the mismatch in the representation that we face today as a large urban county headed to 1.2 million people, as you consider the genesis of the current system, the at-large system, not being ever selected by Lee County voters as their preferred system, but instead being imposed specifically in an effort to disenfranchise a portion of the electorate, it makes nothing but good sense for this change to happen. The last thing I want to remind folks is it has been a long-running effort. As recently as 2004, in addition to the charter review process, the legislative delegation then tried to bring the issue forward. And we want to make sure to give kudos to then Representative Bruce Kyle and Jeff Kottkamp, who worked on this in the State House of Representatives. Unfortunately, at that time, the Senate failed to bring it forward, and it took us here another 2 decades in order to get it done through that option. But nonetheless, here we are on the precipice of bringing this home. It is a well-needed reform, and I'm excited to have played a small part in it and excited to see the rest of Lee County have the opportunity to decide how their government is going to be structured going forward.
The League of Women Voters of Lee County thanks Matt Caldwell for his enlightenment about the single-member districts in Lee County. For more information about the single-member districts, please go to the League of Women Voters of Lee County's website. That is lwvlee.org. Thank you.